From being loved to hated in a matter of seconds and chased off the internet for an entire year. The man, the conspiracy theorist, the controversial star of the past, Shane Dawson. Neko News! Hello everyone and welcome to Neko News, covering stories and delivering news big and small on a weekly basis. I am your host, TheLittleBlackCat, and this is episode 2 of Neko News. If you would like to go and watch episode 1, I will leave a link up in the corner of this video. Having said that, let's get right into the news. Shane Dawson. Most, if not everyone, privy to the ins and outs of social media such as YouTube would have heard this name. More so in a negative light over the last couple of years. But for those of you unaware of this man, I will quickly go over exactly who he is. Shane Lee Yaw, known to the internet as Shane Dawson, is an American YouTuber, one of the first people to rise to fame using the video sharing platform in 2008. Shane started making videos at age 19 and generated over 500 million views by 2010. Shane is currently 33 years old and owns 3 channels on YouTube. The channel Shane with 20.2 million subscribers. The channel Shane Dawson TV with 8.05 million subscribers. And finally, the Shane Glosson channel with 3.07 million subscribers. Over the last couple of months, this YouTuber has gradually made increasing appearances on the platform Instagram, sharing more of himself online, as well as making brief appearances both visually and audio rounds of his fiancée Rylan Adams's vlogs and podcast titled The Sip, warming the internet up to his inevitable return to creating content on YouTube. Despite Shane Dawson expressing to his fans and followers, firstly on Instagram as waiting for inspiration to hit, before returning to the platform to then further expressing as a guest on The Sip as wishing to no longer return to YouTube but instead focus on filmmaking and movie making instead.
I mean, I miss making stuff. So yeah, I want to make stuff. And I'm waiting. It's one of those things where I'm just waiting to get inspired. I'm waiting, so I pray so much about, I'm asking the universe, I'm ready to make something. I'm ready to be creative again. I just want the idea.
Then to release the first video and what we can only assume to be his signature documentary-style series that is to announce his return to YouTube. Now, before we get into the contents of the video, the first episode of Shane's comeback series starts with the video, The Haunting of Shane Dawson. For those of you outraged by Dawson's behavior online from the past, all the way up until his cancellation around September of 2020, might depict this title as Shane personally taking us on a deep dive into his own past actions, behaviors, and how these things have affected his life, resulting in the haunting aspect of the title. You would be mistaken. Instead, this video's title is exactly how it sounds. Shane Dawson's life with the supernatural and the events that have happened in his home, which have then raised suspicion into paranormal phenomenon and activity. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, as it directly links to a video he posted a year ago before being cancelled, titled The Demon in My House, which was then quickly followed by the Taking Accountability video. Before we jump further into this comeback series, I'll quickly go over the topics brought up in the older video. The Demon in My House. The video itself in total is 32 minutes and 12 seconds long, and only at around 10 minutes and 50 seconds do we get into our main points. Starting with what Shane seems to have reiterated on the SIP podcast of wanting to make a horror movie, and how it is his life's dream.
So during quarantine, I kind of got hit with this new inspiration of something that I wanted to do my whole life, which is making a horror movie. So I came up with the idea of spending the next few months writing it, and next year, or whenever we can, going full steam ahead on making it, filming the whole process.
And how this is something he wanted to work entirely on for 2021. This then segues into the main topic of the video and the first signs Shane had experienced in their LA home, dealing with shadow people, and explains how then Trisha Paytas had come over and witnessed the same thing.
One night, it was like midnight, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I see this dark figure walk up the staircase to my office. And I turn my head, and there's nothing there. So I was like, okay, maybe it was a trick of my eye, maybe the way the light was hitting from the TV to the, I don't know. I was trying to make excuses for it. The next night, it happened again. Saw a person turned. I was like, what the fuck? Probably a week later, Trish was here, and she was on my couch, and she was sitting where I usually sit. So I was sitting across from her, and Rylan was there too. And out of nowhere, it's around midnight, and she just goes, and I said, what? And she goes, nothing. And I said, what? What did you see? And she goes, it was weird. I saw like this, like a shadow or something go up the stairs.
Then talks about his horror movie script and incorporating what he had been experiencing into the script itself. Shane later in the video, around 25 minutes, states if he is going to document the process of making his movie, then he is going to record stuff like this too, these paranormal experiences.
And then when I started writing this horror movie, I started writing about a demonic entity, kind of a shadowed figure that is following the character for his whole life. But I do want to be honest, and if I'm going to film the whole process of making the movie, I want to talk about this too, when it happens. So next time things like this happen, I'm going to start documenting it. If you're not here, I'm just going to grab the camera and start documenting, because I do think...
Is this the comeback series? Has Shane been creating this horror documentary on the paranormal activity going on around him for the past year? Was his statements of waiting for inspiration to hit and not wanting to come back to YouTube just a misdirect? A lie? After an entire year, has Shane finally finished writing his horror movie script? And is this documentary-style series of Shane being haunted or residing in haunted places all part of the hype to then promote his upcoming movie? These are just some of the questions that I've raised while researching these videos. If you wish to go and watch the full video yourselves, I'll leave a link below. But getting into the first video of Shane's return, The Haunting of Shane Dawson. 4 minutes into the video, and Shane hints at addressing his past mistakes, saying sorry, and ultimately ends it by saying this.
We say I'm sorry. Yes, we do. Don't worry, I'll get to that. We make mistakes. Yes, we do. I'll get to that. We forgive quickly. How about you get to that? you can hate me. If you hate me, honestly, I feel better that way, because it's like lowering the bar. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I finally don't really care anymore what other people think about me.
A few minutes of joking around and showing everyone his house. He then enters a room where Ryland is just hanging out on the couch. And Shane starts to talk about how moving out into the country scene has made him so happy because he grew up in California, and continued on to how Ryland has basically taken a backward step moving from LA back home. Also, how Ryland had been a little depressed moving back, but also appreciating the beauty of their surroundings. So it almost seemed...
I love being here. Like, I'm so inspired. I'm so excited here. I just feel happier here. I feel like everybody's a little thicker here. Like, it's just a nice energy. Do you know what I mean?
What? Move back to his hometown. I, took a step back. I mean, but I'm so happy here. I do love it here. I'm shitting on it, but it's everything. I mean, this is gorgeous. Look at my life.
So, it almost seems as though Ryland was that hometown country boy who always wanted to go and move somewhere big and fancy and flash, and Shane kind of grew up in that more big, fancy and flash area, just not in the setting that he eventually grew into when he became famous on the internet. So for Ryland, this does very much seem like a setback. And even Ryland states this in the video, that it seems as though he's taken a step back from where he was and where he wanted to go about 5 to 10 years ago. Shane then goes into a bit more of taking accountability and kind of addressing all of the allegations and stuff that came out when he was getting cancelled. So meaning how he has grown, how he feels disconnected from the person he was at the beginning of his YouTube career, so back when he was 19 to 25, and how he would never do the kind of things he did back then now. Shane also goes into introducing Chris, who he met while creating his first short film. This person seems to be who Shane Dawson will be using and utilizing in the future for all of his video recording. It looks like Chris is the new cameraman for Shane and possibly also for Ryland, taking over the role that Andrew once had. Shane...
Okay, here's what I'll say. I'm very, very, very disconnected from the person that I was in my early 20s. To a point where when I see that person, it makes me feel really sad and sick to my stomach. But some things I've learned over the last year and a half is I can't just pretend like that person didn't exist. So I've really come to peace with that, and also, and I don't want to get too much into this, but because I felt like I had made a lot of growth before I got canceled. The last 5 or 6 years in and out of therapy, dealing with stuff, I feel like I grew as a person. I feel like I learned a lot. I would never say or do any of those jokes, any of those things ever that I did back then. So it was a weird thing where I felt like I got to a place where I was proud of what I was making on YouTube, proud of my personal life, proud of who I was becoming. I felt like I was growing up. But I learned a lot, and I feel like I'm so happy it happened, so grateful that I got canceled, because it really changed my life. It showed me what I care about, it showed me what matters, it showed me I don't need to be on YouTube all the time, I don't need to be, and now looking back, there's jokes in them, and there's things in them that I would never do now, but I shouldn't just throw all that stuff away when it kind of got me to where I am, and it also connected with people. And yeah, there was bad stuff in those videos, but the good stuff connected with people, and I can't just throw that away.
Shane further expresses how he is not someone who quits or runs away from his problems, and states that he didn't leave the internet because he was afraid of the things that were resurfacing, or the backlash, or basically everything that came out for his cancellation to take place. But instead, he left the internet because he felt as though he should, because he needed time and to figure out what he wanted to do with his life.
I don't quit. That's not what I do. My plan was never to quit. I mean, it was when I drafted that note. But even during the whole cancellation thing, yes, a few months after that, when I was getting into more of a positive mental place, yeah, I'm not somebody who just quits or throws in the towel. So it's I don't want to be looked at as somebody who gave up and left and ran away from the internet because they were afraid of whatever. It's no, I left because I felt like I should, and I left because I needed time, and I left because I wanted to figure out what the hell I was doing in my life and what I wanted to do.
So it wasn't because he was getting a bunch of hate, but because he thought, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Overall, the video to 23 minutes and 50 seconds is the most we will get out of Shane addressing his cancellation and the topics on which he was cancelled. From that point onwards, we move into the series, as stated in the title, of entities haunting and following Shane wherever he moves. This also has clips from the Demon in My House video and sets up the docuseries in its entirety. He has since released his second video of this series titled Haunted Theories with Shane Dawson. If you would like to go watch the series unfold yourselves, you are completely free to do so. However, how do you feel about what Shane has addressed in his comeback video? Is it enough? Or do you feel as though we as a community deserve more? Feel free to start up a conversation, a discussion in the comments below. As for now, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Neko News and tune in next week for more. Have an amazing day or lovely good night. Nyang!